All right, all right. Happy Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sabs podcast. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. If you're new, I do want to let you know we are live on X and Rumble as well as YouTube. We have a big show for you tonight. Tonight's theme is their own worst enemy. Yes, their own worst enemy. It is on them. Let's go ahead and give some shout outs to people in the chat, ladies and gents, and then we'll dive right in. What is up, Barb? Need a poll on who will replace the lying bee, Karoline Leavitt. Glad she is gone. It's already starting. Greetings, Sue. Iran has showed itself to be a strategic and dignified nation, unlike the West. Yeah, buddy. I know myself. Are the rumors true that Iran has over 150 Delta Force operators as hostages? George Galloway reported on this some time ago. Not sure if the algorithm is dampening this issue. I have not been able to confirm that. I did see that video before, but I haven't received any confirmation on that. Greetings, Brian. Our armed forces will get its morale back by taking our country back. The time to overthrow the entity that occupies DC is now. If they took so much as a penny from AIPAC, arrest them and end the Fed. All right. Shout out to L says, hi, Sabby. You're a good person with good instincts and easy like Sunday morning. So pleasant. Oh, yeah. And so cute, too. Oh, thank you, L. Shout out to Blockbuster says, hi. Greetings, Silver Surfer says, Sabby, you were fantastic on TYT yesterday. Thank you. Thank you so much. Shout out to Mumu. I don't think Israel fooled Trump. They just wanted to show the world how much power they have over the U.S. president. They got him to ignore genocide, start a war with Iran, and leave the plane. The plane, boss, the plane. Shout out to CBC Voters says, happy Thursday, Sabby and Eric. Shout out to Measured Man said, time to tribe up. Greetings, Salma says, State of Israel has only criminal history. State of Israel has fake and fraudulent name called Medinot Israel. The name was never used in the Bible. Biblical name is Mamlekat, Israel free. I think he meant free Palestine, maybe? Greetings, Lorette says, hi, Sabby, Eric, Corey, and RB and fam. Wish those leakers would leak MLK, JFK assassination files. Yeah. And shout out to AB Media says, hey, Sabby, I hope you're well. Greetings, Randy says, good evening, my dear little Sabrina and revolutionary comrades. And shout out to Little Wisdom. Sabby was right about Wisconsin, but it turned out to be so close. I don't like this too well. Yeah. Shout out to Hannah says, sup. Greetings, Malty says, so KK Karoline Leavitt is gone. Oh my God. It is already starting. Greetings, Samantha says, saw Sabby on TYT. I was so happy. Oh, thank you. Thank you. All right, ladies and gents, again, we have so much to get into, so I don't want to keep you waiting there. We'll not keep you too long tonight, but we got a lot to talk about, folks. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and give a shout out to Sabby patrons. Thank you guys so much for your support. Thank you for keeping the lights on around me, fam. All right, all right. If you are interested in being a Sabby patron, I have 5 categories. We have the ultimate, the Sabinators. Let's not forget about the Sabsters, AA, and of course, the Sabbies, who are not too shabby. And last but not least, we cannot forget about the members. Thank you guys so much. All of their names are posted here, and you can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen throughout the show. And we have a new one. We have a new Sabby patron. We call them newbies. Let's give it up for Antoine Foster. Thank you. Thank you so much. And welcome. Hey, hey, hey. All right. Again, lots to discuss tonight, ladies and gents. So let's go ahead and show you that thumbnail. Dun, dun, dun. I'm sorry. I'm in a silly mood tonight. Tonight, we are discussing a CIA leak clears Iran, Trump fail. Uh-oh. What is Netanyahu doing there, right? Is it possible that Trump was tricked by Israel into believing that there was an assassination attempt on his life by Iran? Leaked information is showing that things are not always what they seem. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to discuss, if you haven't heard by now, Miss Happy-Go-Lucky Blondie there, Karoline Leavitt, quit. Ding dong. Karoline is gone. Oh man, Karoline is gone. But I have more information about that story. Was Karoline Leavitt fired? Was she pushed out? Or did she leave willingly? Because there is new information that has been released that leads another person into this story, and a leaked video that shows that all was not well. Was not well. We're also going to discuss, if you haven't seen it, we're going to talk about it tonight. It was a doozy. Katie Halper grills Khanna. Of course, this comes about after his appearance on Drop Site News, where Khanna was, showed his bias there that he had when it comes to the Palestinian people and who has a right to defend. Well, Katie Halper does grill him in this conversation. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to discuss, I told you we're going to have some fun tonight. Tucker Carlson is clapping back at Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro is going off at Tucker Carlson, or about Tucker Carlson, but of course not to his face. I don't understand why these conversations can't happen in person, face to face, but had some things to say about him. And apparently Tucker Carlson decided to drop a bombshell about Ben Shapiro, who he really is and where he actually came from. We're going to get into all of that. Never piss off the people who are your homies. never piss off the people with your homies, because he has so much dirt on him. And last but not least, I think this story needs more attention. You'll see the woman there that is in the fourth yellow square. This woman almost lost her life because of flock cameras. So we're not going to forget about the surveillance state and how we have yet another person. I told you about one before, but we have another woman who almost lost her life because of a report from the flock cameras. So we're going to get into all of that, ladies and gents. Tonight's theme is their own worst enemy. There was a song by this band called Lit, like back in the day. See, I told you I love the 90s. Late 90s, there was a song by this band called Lit. And the song was My Own Worst Enemy, right? Some of you may remember this song. They said, can you tell me why I'm sleeping in the car with my clothes on? That song. We're turning it around a little bit, and we're going to call it Their Own Worst Enemy. Because not my own worst enemy. They are their own worst enemy. So we're going to get into all of that with the stories tonight. So start us off right if you haven't had a chance to do so, ladies and gents, and smash that like button. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, just like a Care Bear. Let's go ahead and dive into this first story. I got some stuff to show you. Ooh. So Karoline Leavitt announced that she was resigning as press secretary. She is exiting, of course, the Trump administration here. But now there is new information that shows maybe she didn't do this willingly. I told you guys it's a sinking ship. The excuse that she is giving is that she wants to spend time with family. That's always a really convenient excuse for people to give, especially considering she did just, she had a baby, like that type, all that jazz. But there's more to this story. Let's go ahead and get into this first clip here. Again, Donald Trump announced it, and so did Karoline Leavitt. She has decided to exit her position as press secretary, leaving the Trump administration.
President Trump announcing just moments ago that Karoline Leavitt will be leaving her role as the White House press secretary at the end of this month. The president taking to Truth Social, saying that Leavitt will now serve as one of his, quote, top outside advisors. Joining us now is CNN White House correspondent Elena Train. Elena, what more can you tell us?
Yeah, look, I think this came as a surprise to many people, Pamela, and that's partly because this role, particularly under President Donald Trump, had been a tough one to fill. I'd remind you that Leavitt is one of the closest advisors. The president did say this in his post, but she is one of the closest advisors that he has. She's part of that very small group of really loyal people who have been with the president on the 2024 campaign trail. She also worked for him, I should note, during his first term when he was first in office, and has continued to be one of those people that goes in to very sensitive meetings, is one of few people that actually knows what is going on at high levels in the West Wing. So it's a lot.
So she is one of the most loyal people, they said, and one of the ones, of course, that is the closest to the president of the United States. So let's just hold on to that, okay? Hold on to that for a second.
Loss for the president. I'd also note the timing of this, which I think is pretty crucial. The White House is losing their chief messenger just 3 months before the midterm elections. Now, as for the reasoning for her departure, both the president and Leavitt, who did post her own lengthy statement on social media, said it was because of her family. She did give birth recently to a daughter. She gave birth to her on May 1st. She only took about a month of maternity leave before returning. And I'll tell you, I have been speaking with some of my sources. When she was on maternity leave, the president, even then, was still frequently calling her and at times was asking when she was going to come back. So I think that just highlights the demanding role of press secretary for her to juggle with her 2 young children. She did confirm that the president had asked her, Pamela, to stay on as a top advisor to her. Of course, that would be a role that would be outside of the White House. It does seem that she's agreed to that, but it's a loss for this White House, particularly at a time, as I mentioned, when they're going to be in a very difficult period on messaging around the midterm elections with everything going on with the Iran war. To lose a messenger like Karoline. One last thing I want to say is I've been catching up with some staffers here since the news broke. It's not immediately clear, at least to some of the staffers I spoke with, who would actually replace her. So we're staying tuned for that. When she was out on maternity leave for the month of June, there wasn't really a real replacement. At times you had people like Marco Rubio or the vice president, J.D. Vance, do a briefing, but not in the way that she has in the past. So I think that'll be a question for who will pick up the helm from Leavitt.
Yeah.
So we may have an idea of who that person may be, the person that may end up replacing her. So remember, Karoline Leavitt, we talked about this before when she told people to pick themselves up by the bootstraps. She married a sugar daddy, okay? Like she's married to a very, very rich older dude. She's gonna be fine, okay? She's gonna be fine. But I want to show you a little bit more information about this because, like I said, more was revealed on Thursday. So this is her official statement. Serving as the White House press secretary over the past year and a half has been an honor and an adventure of a lifetime. I'm incredibly grateful to President Trump for granting me so many extraordinary opportunities, such as working in the West Wing and spending countless hours in the Oval Office, flying around the world and meeting foreign leaders and traveling across our beautiful country and meeting Americans from all walks of life. Most of all, I'm thankful to the president for entrusting me with distinct privilege of speaking on his behalf at the White House podium. I have spoken with great pride about the many historic accomplishments of this administration. And she's lied a lot about accomplishments of the administration. And I have relished, holding the liberal media accountable. See how she had to slip that in there? And ensuring the American people hear the truth about Trump's success. Being a mother, this is where she implements the family part. Being a mother and welcoming a new baby while working in one of the most demanding jobs in the world has been the most rewarding yet challenging season of my life, to say the least. The truth is, since returning to the White House after the birth of my daughter, I have felt in my heart that I cannot be the best mom to my 2 children deserve, while devoting the constant time, energy, and attention required of the White House press secretary. And that is why I've ultimately made the bittersweet decision to depart from the White House and embark on a new chapter in my life. Wasn't she the one that just recently told people, hey, I'm showing people you can do both. You can be a mom and you can be out there, be a career woman too. Wasn't she the one that said that? Okay. Our country is facing an existential threat from an increasingly extremist Democratic Party that seeks to destroy everything great about America. And I believe it is incumbent upon us who care about this country to fight back against that threat. My fight is entering a new phase, but it is far from over. It's interesting, right? Because the Democrats don't have control over the House or the Senate or the White House, but she says that's the threat. Not the corporations, not the military industrial complex, not the billionaires and the trillionaires. So notice how that goes. And then she says more thank you, thank you, thank yous. Now, I'm going to tell you guys something funny. This image that is posted here, it is being reported that this image of her was AI. That's what's being reported. People are saying that her jawline is different. A lot of things about her face in that picture is different. I don't know. But Karoline got plenty of money. She's going to be fine. And of course, here's that statement from Donald Trump also announcing that she is exiting the party. Stephen Miller commented on Karoline leaving her job. You guys got to hear this. This is hilarious. Check this out.
Stephen, I do want to ask you about the news of the day. President Trump posted today our wonderful White House press secretary and one of my most trusted aides, Karoline Leavitt, will be departing her role at the end of the month so she can spend more time with her beautiful young children and family. A decision I totally understand and respect. Karoline will now be one of my top outside advisors and an influential voice within the Republican Party as we work to defy history and conclusively win the midterm elections. So, Stephen, what do you have to say about the departure of Karoline Leavitt?
Well, look, it's personal for me because Karoline is not just a colleague, not just someone for whom I have endless respect and admiration, but she's a close friend, someone I've got to know well, someone that my family has gotten to know well, someone that has really been in every way a source of joy in so many of our lives. Professionally, her credentials, her accolades, her achievements are second to none. Her job that she has performed as White House press secretary, the word exemplary doesn't even begin to cover it. She has served this president so well, this administration so well, this country so well, and very importantly, she's been a role model to millions and millions of young women all across this country.
She's been a role model, I guess, to tell you how well to lie. Oh, this is a reach.
A mother, a family woman, a press secretary, a patriot, really in every way, an extraordinary person whose role in this movement and this country is only beginning, and I see unlimited success and possibilities ahead for her, and we're going to continue working together every single day. Her story is just beginning. I can't wait to see what her future holds.
Yeah, they're really, man, they're milking it, huh? They're really, really milking it. So let's get into the nitty gritty, okay? Because now there is new information that has been released that could just basically blow this whole thing up. Shout out to Lovable. Trump apparently snuck Natalie Harp onto his secret plane with him. Is her life more valuable than the press? Your thoughts. So this woman here, and we're going to get into the thick of it, this woman here is Natalie Harp. So remember when Donald Trump had to switch planes when he said his life was at risk? They told him that Iran was going to do this assassination attempt on his life. And so he was getting on board Air Force One and he snuck off that plane and got into another plane. Well, remember we were explaining to you that, you know, he got onto that other plane, but the press was left on the plane that was going to be the most vulnerable if there was going to be an assassination attempt. Guess who else apparently got on that separate plane with him? Natalie. Karoline Leavitt was left on the other plane with the press. The plane that if there was an assassination attempt, and there was not, but if there was, as he was warned there was going to be, all of those people that were left on that plane who had no idea what was going on, they would have been killed. So let me say this again. Donald Trump left his press secretary on the vulnerable plane that could have been attacked to go after him, but he took Miss Natalie here onto the separate plane with him. Girlfriend? I don't know. But who abandons their press secretary? You left your press secretary on the plane that could possibly get attacked, but he made sure to take Natalie with him. So I ask again, was Karoline Leavitt, did she leave willingly? Was she pushed out? Or was she fired? Now let's get into this a little bit more because, you know, it's all up in the news now. Natalie Harp behind Karoline Leavitt firing? ? This is the question that's coming around the bend. Wild decoy plane theory surfaces as Trump's press secretary steps down. So let's get into the thick of this part here. They go in, of course, into the part where she announces that she's leaving. But check this out. Claims have been made online that Natalie Harp might have gotten Karoline Leavitt fired. These claims have not been verified, but other claims have indicated that Natalie Harp traveled on the Trump decoy plane. Karoline Leavitt was left on Air Force One. Don't you guys find it strange that she is resigning right after this plane incident? We just talked about the plane Tuesday night? We just talked about the plane. And she's out. She's out. Meanwhile, one person commented Karoline Leavitt is the classic mean girl and Natalie Harp wasn't having it. Was there trouble here between Karoline Leavitt and Natalie Harp? So I want to show you something else. This is leaked. Shout out to Call to Activism. Breaking. Trump announced Karoline Leavitt's departure to spend more time with family. But in a leaked video from last night, she looks visibly isolated during a tense Marine One exchange with Trump and another woman. Hours later, she's out. Is the White House trying to cover up for something? So you can watch along with me and let me know what you think. But I believe the woman over here with the white, looks like a white sleeveless shirt next to Trump, I believe that woman is Natalie Harp. And this right over here in the blue dress, that looks like Karoline Leavitt. So watch the video. I'm going to mute it so you don't hear that noise. We can talk over it. Now let's watch the body language and the behavior. Karoline Leavitt in the blue dress. Yeah, that's her. And I think the woman over here in the white sleeveless shirt, I think that may be Natalie Harp. Now, I'm just looking at the body language, some of the positioning here. So notice how Natalie, who we believe to be is Natalie, is sitting right next to Donald Trump. Karoline Leavitt is on the other side. I'm just looking at the body language again. What is happening here? Does Karoline Leavitt look happy to you? Look at the look on her face, the expression. She doesn't look happy. No, this might be a tense conversation. We don't know. But somebody got this video somehow. And you can see what's happening here. And then she pivots to her phone and looks away. The body language tells me that must not have been a pleasant conversation. But here's the thing, because we're going to go back to this image here. Here's the thing. What is really going on? It almost seems as though Donald Trump may have found a replacement for Karoline Leavitt. That news segment reported that even when she was on maternity leave, that he was still contacting her. So it wasn't really a leave if you're still working while you're, out of the office. And so I don't know what is going on with Natalie. Now, here's the thing. It is very convenient for someone to say, I am resigning because I want to spend time with family. Most people are not going to question that, especially if you just had a baby. But the reality is, folks, it's a sinking ship. Karoline Leavitt is out because the ship is sinking. It is a sinking ship. I believe part of that has to do, again, same reason with Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massey and others, Joe Kent, Tulsi Gabbard, all of them that stepped away. It's a sinking ship. Now, it's convenient to use the excuse that you want to spend time with family, and that could be partially true as well. But she does not look happy there. And now you got this other woman, Miss Natalie Harp, and she seems to be very close and within close proximity to the president. And if it is true that she got on the decoy plane with Donald Trump and he left his press secretary on the plane that was supposedly going to be attacked, that tells you just how little he cares about Karoline Leavitt. And all of this is happening within like the 48 hours. We talked about the plane incident Tuesday night. Then it was reported on Wednesday that she was resigning. That fits. Press secretaries, yeah, they resigned. It happened under Biden too, and they don't always stay through the entire term. But I'm just looking at the timing of all of this. Also, as they said in the other video, this is right before the midterms. Right before the midterms. So for me, I don't know. It seems like Donald Trump might have found him another one. And maybe this is the person who is going to be the new press secretary. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But, you guys know there's always more to these types of stories, right? What do they say? People don't quit jobs. They quit managers. They quit bosses. But Karoline Leavitt, for all this time, if you remember, she has told a number. Let's put it back up on the screen. She has told a number of lies to protect Donald Trump and his administration. And at the end of the day, they are their own worst enemy. This is what I mean. Karoline Leavitt is her own worst enemy. And she's trying to blame the liberal media and all that. And we make fun of the media as well, too. But this is really her doing. She was willing to lie after lie after lie after lie. There's also reports coming in that people have been contacting Karoline Leavitt and other staffers about Donald Trump's health, and they've been shut out. So she dug her own grave. And now it looks like, you getting pushed aside for the other chick here. I mean, for you to not be on the same plane as him and you're the press secretary, that tells you everything. So the question is, do you believe that Karoline Leavitt, was she fired, pushed out, or did she leave willingly? Let me know. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. Hey. Shout out to Mark, who's been a member for 18 months. There's a Soviet movie about mutiny. It's called Battleship Munchkin. I Know Myself said, Lit, you make me completely miserable. Yeah, that's another song by them. My own worst enemy. No. All right. Okay, let's get to the next one, guys. We're making good time here. Good time. This conversation here with Khanna, fairly recent, happens right after he had this back and forth debate on Drop Site News with Jeremy. And Khanna here seems to believed a lot of propaganda. And so I thought it was great for Katie to question him about these things. Katie Halper, who has relentlessly covered the genocide in Gaza, who has talked multiple times about Zionism. She got fired from The Hill Rising because she made like a video essay talking about the creation of Israel and Zionism and the supremacy. That's why she was fired from The Hill Rising. And then later on, they fired Bree because she was critical of Israel and everything too. So, they have a running theme. So I thought of all the people for him to hear this, it's good that he heard it from her, someone who is Jewish and is anti-Zionist. So, and Ro was smiling real hard in this video. Like, he's cheesing a little too hard right here. Oh, man. This part here gets into the conversation about the right to defend. Listen to this.
At Drop Site News. Yeah. And you maintain that Israel should still have access to U.S. weapons, though limited to.
Did you notice how quickly his smile went away when she said your interview with Drop Site News? I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. We'll go back a little bit more. I just noticed that smile went away very quickly when she said that.
You maintain that Israel should still have access to U.S. weapons, though limited to defensive weapons. And again, this caught the attention of a lot of people. So right. I want to know, do you maintain your position that Israel should have legal access to U.S. weapons after and while they're committing what you've called a genocide?
Well, what I said is zero aid, zero military sales that are weapons used to kill civilians. I'm a co-sponsor on the Stop the Bombs Act. I've supported all of Senator Sanders' amendments. But the question I was asked is, would you have a global arms embargo on Israel getting Iron Dome? And I said no, for two reasons. One, I don't think America should be enforcing it. Like, are we literally going to be stopping other countries from selling Israel Iron Dome? That's getting into a foreign entanglement. And secondly, there are Israeli lives there and American lives, 700,000 Americans, and I'm for protecting civilian life, whether that is Palestinian, whether it's Indian, whether it's Jordanian, whether it's Israeli. But
Okay, well, if that's the case, Rokana, if you're for protecting civilian lives, um, why doesn't Gaza have an Iron Dome? America doesn't have an Iron Dome. No one else has an Iron Dome. So it's just, why is it that just this one particular, state of Israel, why is it that that one particular entity gets to have an Iron Dome? How is that not some type of favoritism? It is. Nobody else has an Iron Dome. So think about that for a second.
What I have clearly said is that I'm opposed to any military sales to kill civilians, and I'm opposed to all aid.
But I mean, I understand the defensive nature in theory of the Iron Dome, but given that you yourself have said that they are committing a genocide, isn't, like, if you use an analogy, like a guy who is stabbing people, walking down the street, stabbing people, if we give that guy a shield, even if it's defensive, like, we are now complicit in his criminality, right? So isn't that what we would be doing?
That part. This is what we were saying before. It's like giving a school shooter a bulletproof vest. Like, you wouldn't hand a bulletproof vest to a school shooter, would you? So why are we handing, and funding an Iron Dome for Israel, a country that's committing genocide?
Selling the guy a shield to continue the analogy?
I believe that the Israeli government has committed a genocide, but that doesn't mean that the 700,000 Americans living there, or the Israeli civilians living there, including Israeli Arabs, should suffer death if their missiles launched there. And I also don't understand.
Pause, because see, this is where we got to push back on this. Okay, so here's my thing. You still didn't answer the question as to why they need an Iron Dome, because the reality is this: we have seen wars happen like all over the world, right? Did Iraq have an Iron Dome? America doesn't have an Iron Dome, although Donald Trump wants to build a Golden Dome. All these types of things. We've seen wars happen all over the world. No one else is receiving that type of protection. So he said he doesn't want those civilians to get killed. Okay, but what about the civilians in Gaza? What about the civilians in the West Bank? There isn't an Iron Dome for the Palestinians in the West Bank. So those civilians seem to be just cannon fodder? They seem to be disposable, but not those Israeli ones. I want everybody to understand this logic for just a second. Why is it that they get that protection, but no one else does? Do civilians in other countries not matter?
What the U.S. would do in terms of, like, would we want to have American warships basically trying to block any missiles from coming into Israel? I mean, I don't think we should be going into wars over this. I think we should be pushing for a peace process, and we should be recognizing a Palestinian state. We should be stopping our aid. Today, Yvonne Levy was indicted. His group is the one who detained me. We should be calling for extremist settlers to be arrested, destroying outposts. There are a lot of things that we can do that would, in my view, have an immediate impact on Palestinian lives.
Let me just pause here for a second. First of all, you guys know how I feel about the whole Palestinian state thing, but let's go ahead and respond to that since he mentioned the Israeli government. It's the government, which it's not just that, it's Zionism. But since he mentioned the government, let's go ahead and point back to that for just a second. Rokana says it's the government that is the problem. Got it. So if the government is bombing and killing kids and committing a genocide, why are we still then protecting the government? Why are we still doing that? You see, you can't get around this. You cannot get around this. If you say just the government versus if you say the actual state of Israel, either way, you can't get around it. The point is the U.S. government is protecting murderers. And they advocate for the supremacy. This happens with no other country. They get to have this special treatment as they're killing people. So any way you try to say it, the U.S. is still giving them the bulletproof vest.
So speaking of Palestinian lives, another thing that was very controversial, or that you and Jeremy got into, was the right of Palestinians to self-defense and the right of Israel to self-defense. So obviously you see the Iron Dome, right, as a defensive measure. But, what about the right of Palestinians to resist an occupying military?
Well, what I've said is we should recognize a Palestinian state and have a Palestinian state without Hamas, and recognize a Palestinian state, which in West Bank there isn't one. We'd have consular services, and then the Palestinian state would have the right of self-defense in accordance with international law, like any other state of the 193 countries we have.
So this is the kicker, because here's the thing. First of all, let's go back to the government that he was talking about. The government does not want a Palestinian state. Netanyahu said this again just a couple of days ago. So you're not going to get a Palestinian state. Get me? Okay, let's move on from there. What Ro Khanna is saying to you is that he does not believe the Palestinian people have a right to defend themselves because they are not a state. That goes back to the humanitarian question. Do stateless people have a right to defense? The answer is yes, they do. Again, Ro Khanna is a lawyer. I'm not. I looked up this information the same way he can look up this information. This is very interesting too, especially considering at the end of this interview, he said he's going to know after Thanksgiving whether or not he's going to run for president. This is going to be one of the big issues people are going to be paying attention to when it comes to these candidates. And I have to tell you right now, again, I have to say this. Ro Khanna is telling you that because they don't have a state, they don't have statehood, they don't have a right to defend themselves. And that is false. They do. People who are occupied have the right to resist with arms. So we have to continue to tell people this, guys. You got to continue to push back on that narrative. Now, do you guys see why they continue to say, well, I support a two-state solution? Number one, they know that's not going to happen because the Israeli government won't allow it to happen. So that's that. Two, that's their way of basically saying that the Palestinians do not have the right to defend themselves. And these are the same. And Ro Khanna was on, he was over on Drop Site, and he said, that he's a follower of Gandhi and Martin Luther King and all this kind of stuff. He's more of a student of Malcolm than he is of Martin than he is of Malcolm. But this is where the Malcolm comes out. This is where the Malcolm X part comes out for me, because Malcolm X believed you had a right to defend yourself. This is where that part is missing. Because when somebody continues to keep kicking you in your head, you mean to tell me that because you don't have a state, you don't have a right to kick back? Nah, buddy. We not going down that road.
That to me seems that Palestinians would have the same rights as Chinese, Indians, Americans. But what we first need to do is recognize a Palestinian state, which I think the next American president should.
You cannot be free. You cannot defend yourself until you are a state. Does everybody hear what he is saying? Ro Khanna was just detained in the West Bank, given harsh treatment, but not as harsh treatment as is done to the Palestinians, all because they didn't care that he was a congressperson. They saw the color of his skin and they said, that's a wrap. You can't sit here. And so this is terrible framing that You can defend yourself when you have a state. But other than that, no, you can't defend yourself now. What the hell is this? What?
So I hear that, but and I think, I think one state is obviously the ultimate goal, but I know that some people think two states to get there, and you may not think one state is the ultimate goal, but the thing is that a lot of people don't seem to recognize that, and you can judge this as good or bad morally, but in terms of like legality, so you have the UN General Assembly Resolution 3743 and other resolutions which affirms, quote, the legitimacy of the struggle of peoples for independence, territorial integrity, national unity, and liberation from colonial and foreign domination and foreign occupation by all available means, including armed struggle. Now, I want to point out, as long as they follow international humanitarian law. So, in other words, they can't, in the name of fighting that occupying power, kill civilians, right? But they are allowed in international humanitarian law to kill soldiers. So, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, do you recognize this reality, but just think it's not wise to pursue it, or did you know about this?
Well, I leave the international law for international law scholars. What I am talking.
I'm going to leave the law for the law scholars. No. But the law is the law. Jeez Louise.
Talking about is how we get to a just peace. And in my view, we should, the most effective resistance is nonviolent. And that's what a lot of Palestinians are engaged in. But the most impactful is for an American administration to recognize a Palestinian state, to stop the aid to Israel, to stop military sales killing civilians, and then that Palestinian state would have the right to engage in self-defense in accordance with international law. And that.
So see, back up. First, he said, now see, we're gonna do the Bo Duke moment. I think that's his name, Bo Duke, the actor from Menace to Society. We're gonna do that moment. See, you fucked up, right? First, you said that you can defend yourself once you become a state. Then you said that you'll let the international scholars handle international law. Now you're saying that under international law, then they would be able to defend themselves. But you just previously said that you were going to leave the international law for the international scholars. But now all of a sudden, international law when it comes to defense. What? Oh, man.
To me is really the directive of people who are leading the country here in America. I let the legal scholars figure out the international law.
And what about BDS, boycott, divest, and sanction? Because a lot of people say, okay, they're not allowed to do nonviolent. I mean, they're not allowed to engage in armed resistance, even if it is actually protected by international humanitarian law. So what do you think of BDS, the boycott, divest, sanction movement, which obviously is nonviolent?
Well, there should obviously be sanctions on the settlements, on government officials advocating for settlements, on the banking and construction that is financing those settlements. And those are all things that an American administration can do. I also believe that there should be clear protections of free speech. And so someone engaged in BDS shouldn't be deported, they shouldn't be arrested, they shouldn't lose their jobs over their speech, and there should be protections for speech.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
So he has a similar position that Shama had, where the BDS should be applied to the government, not necessarily to the civilians, because it's this whole idea like you don't want the workers to suffer because of that. But here's where I differ. Here's my thing. When you are occupying a group of people, when you are engaging in genocide, you lose those rights and protections that you have as a worker. This is not just about the government. The polls even show you the majority of Israelis that are there support the genocide. The majority. I think one of the polls I saw said like 98.9%. Others who have traveled there will be like first to let you know that many of the Israelis there think that Netanyahu hasn't even gone far enough. They think that he should be going further against the Palestinian people. So that's my take on that. I feel as though if you're occupying a group of people, no, you lose your rights as a worker and those protections. You don't get to have it both ways.
I guess I just don't get why you think that why Israel should have the right to respond to Hamas attacks, but Hamas doesn't have the right to respond to Israel's attacks.
Well, Hamas is a terrorist organization that massacred people on October 7th. And, I have would never ever justify what Hamas did. And I think they're not constructive to a Palestinian people. And I believe that what an American president should do is recognize a Palestinian state without Hamas and work towards giving Palestinians a voice. And that Palestinian state, I believe, would have the right to self-defense in accordance with international law. And I've called.
So see, this is what I'm saying. It always keeps going back to this moment. Once you are a state, for Ro Khanna, once you are a state, then you would have the right to self-defense. And what I am saying is that humanitarian law shows that stateless people still have a right to defend themselves. That's the thing. Also, it's kicking the can down the road, because if the Israeli government is telling you there cannot be a Palestinian state, then that means that the Palestinian people will never be able to defend themselves. Meanwhile, Israel can go into Gaza, they can go into the West Bank, they can terrorize and kill Palestinians, and there's no repercussions, there's no accountability. This is what happens when you're saying you get that right to defense when you are a state. So they're just kicking that can down the road. This is the problem when people like Ro Khanna say, well, I think we need to have a two-state solution. The time for a two-state solution was years ago. That bridge has been crossed. And ultimately, when you kick people off of their land, you don't get to dictate and tell them where they should be and how they should fight back. The majority of the Palestinians that are in Gaza are refugees. They kicked them out. They took their homes and they made them just go into this open air prison. And then this is the other thing. Then you fence them in. They can't leave without the approval of Israel. So you have Palestinians, those who have developed cancer, that can't get cancer treatment because Israel won't give them permission to leave Gaza to go to the hospitals in Israel. Do you get what I'm saying? But then you're telling those people that they can't defend themselves. If somebody came to your neighborhood and fenced your neighborhood in and said, this is it, good luck, what would you do? What would you do? Imagine if you could not leave your neighborhood because all of a sudden it became fenced in and they said, this is a border now. This is where you reside and you cannot come out of this fence unless you get permission from us. And then every couple of years or so, they go into your neighborhood and they do what they call mowing the lawn. They just go in and start killing some people. But according to Ro Khanna, you have to wait until you become a state to defend yourself. Because without the occupation, you don't get a Hamas. Hamas didn't wake up one day. Hamas wasn't just formed one day just because of no reason. Hamas came into being because of the occupation. And also to that, Ro Khanna, I would say, what would you say for those that participated in the Haitian Revolution, the Haitian Rebellion, those who rose up in Haiti? Would you say they weren't supposed to do that? You give power to the oppressor when you do that. When you do that, you give power to the occupier because they know they can do whatever the hell they want to do. And then you give them an iron dome and basically say, oh, and we're going to protect you so that they can't fight back. Please.
For Netanyahu to be arrested along with Putin in terms of his violation of the ICC and committing a genocide in Gaza. So it's not like I give the Israeli government a pass for what they've done. I'm saying that they need to be arrested and held accountable under international law.
Right. I mean, I would say that, Hamas they've been accused of war crimes for sure, as has the Israeli government. And I don't defend like any war crimes, but they have been the government of Gaza. Of course, no one pays attention to this. I'm not talking about you, but it's insane to me that they've said time and time again that they were willing to give up governing. It was actually Israel that didn't want them to do that. But I do think there's a double standard. We also don't arm Hamas, right? So that's the other issue, is that I think that our response to Israel and to Hamas should be different, given that we are arming one side and not the other. And we constantly talk about how they're our allies. So I think that, you and I obviously agree on certain things, disagree on other things, but I am grateful that you take the time to come on shows. And you are often credited with this for coming on shows where you disagree. And when are you going to announce your presidential run?
Listen to this.
We'll see. We'll make a decision after Thanksgiving. But you know what I often say is I say the same thing whether I go on a conservative podcast or a left podcast. I say what I believe. Now, sometimes I refine it. I change my mind, but I don't try to pander to the audience. And I think when people will say, not only do I go everywhere, but I am honest where I agree and where I disagree. And I think that's ultimately what's important, is people get a sense of integrity and taking stands of what you believe, as opposed to trying to just put your finger in the wind and appeal to groups and tell them what they want to hear.
Yeah.
So I will say this, Khanna has a lot of work to do. You got a lot of work to do, bruh. Because that framing is just, I can't imagine someone saying that to a group of people that are fenced in and telling them, well, once you become a state, then you can defend yourself. And the very country that kicked you, the people who kicked you out to create the state of Israel, the people that are occupying you are telling you that you can't have a state. And then you have a congressman and others, he's not alone, telling the Palestinian people you can't defend yourself because you're not a state. I feel like, and he says he's going to announce he's running for president probably after November, or one way or the other. If Khanna runs like this, he's going to be his own worst enemy. It's not going to be me. It's not going to be you. He's going to be his own worst enemy. You know why? Because he was there. He was in the West Bank. He was detained. They detained a congressman. So, yeah, I don't know, bruh. I don't know. This fear that they have about criticizing Israel, for me, it's just, it's wild. It's wild. I look at it as a human rights issue. And to me, it's like, you feel that way about them, then, I'm kind of looking at how you felt about some others in history. All right. Let's go to the comments, ladies and gents, and then we'll go to the next story. Thank you, Simply. Hey, Sabby, love what you are doing. Have you heard of Ibrahim Traore's song, Sar Cody, featuring War Lassie Moore? Info on the AES, please. I have not heard that. I will look into it. Moha said Khanna seems to be playing both sides. Is he chummies with Narendra Modi and the BJP party of India? I don't know. Thank you, Benjamin. Not a bomb, not a bullet, not a barrel, not a buck. I like that, Ben. I like that. Thank you, Sherelle. Defend against who? Palestine didn't have a military. Israel wouldn't need to defend itself if it acted right. It's a shell with no right to exist. There you go. Thank you, Cheetah, who's been a member for 21 months. Free Palestine. Thank you, Sandra. Also a member for 11 months. Free Palestine from the river to the sea. Thank you, GT Massive. Robert Robinson Taylor was an American architect and educator. Taylor was the first African-American student at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, the first accredited African-American architect when he graduated in 1892. Well, thank you. And Max said Haiti is a great example of old colonialism where very few people own any land. There you go. Yeah, you can't have it both ways, dude. And I feel like he's trying to have it both ways. Okay. All right, ladies and gents, let's get to the next story. If you haven't done so, do me a solid and smash that like button. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, just like a Care Bear. All right, let's go ahead and get into this one. You know, the surveillance state is alive and loud, ladies and gents, and it almost cost one woman her life. A couple of weeks ago, I told you about a woman that was arrested because a flock camera said that she did a crime that she did not do. Now, she was able to get off from that and get away from that after her husband also contacted the police. But now we have another one. And this one happened in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where this woman almost lost her life because a flock camera tagged her license plate. And apparently she was accused of a much more serious crime. Let's get into it.
Now to a Fox 6 exclusive, scary moments on the interstate as guns are drawn on a woman near Brookfield. Brookfield police say they thought they were pulling over a murder suspect yesterday.
Turns out it was a mistake by another department with the flock license plate reader technology. Ben Hansen spoke with the woman seen on video who says this isn't the first time this happened to her this week.
Like, where can we go? Like, it was just a whole lot. Like,
Amber Newell is still shaken up from Thursday.
I haven't been asleep since this happened. Every time I close my eyes, all I can see is guns.
When Brookfield police surrounded her car on I-94, drew their guns, and told her to come out with her hands up.
My mom is like my go-to person. I wanted to call her so bad yesterday, but I'm like, if I make a sudden move, it's going to be over. It's going to end my life.
Friday, we learned Newell did nothing wrong.
It was very embarrassing because after they put us in cuffs, they walked us to the car. I'm not knowing what's going on. I'm scared. All you see is people in their cars recording.
Milwaukee police say they accidentally didn't remove the alert previously placed on her vehicle in the flock camera system. At one point, the vehicle was suspected of being tied to a homicide. Eventually, Milwaukee police were no longer interested in the vehicle.
Let's go back. Let's go back to the part where she has her hands up. Okay. The flock camera flagged her license plate as being connected to a homicide. She gets pulled over by the police and they come out guns blazing. This woman could have lost her life. All because the flock cameras misunderstood or misrepresented her license plate. This could have been any one of us. This is the thing about technology. It's not perfect. It makes mistakes. This is one of the reasons why people want the flock cameras gone. And she's not alone. More and more every week, I'm hearing of another incident where a flock camera misidentified someone for a crime. So we are heavily surveilled. And they're supposed to cause good. I see them causing more harm. This is why people are protesting against the flock cameras. Now, luckily, this woman made away with her life, but this could have ended very differently.
To a homicide. Eventually, Milwaukee police were no longer interested in the vehicle, but the department didn't cancel that alert. So when Brookfield police saw the vehicle on a flock camera, they responded. Brookfield's chief says his officers did nothing wrong.
The only thing they said was contact Milwaukee Police Department. It's their fault. That's all they kept saying was it's their fault. It's not our fault. It's their fault.
MPD declined an interview. Newell says last Monday, the same thing happened when Milwaukee police pulled her over with guns drawn. She says officers never explained why, towed her car, and let her go. Newell says she's still scared to drive her car, and her daughter is too.
My daughter.
Again, they never even explain why. What the hell is going on? This is scary.
still scared to drive her car, and her daughter is too.
My daughter keep asking, Mama, is the police gonna get us? She don't want to ride in the car no more because she don't know if the police gonna pull us over and do it again.
Now, she's hoping for an explanation and an apology.
I'm really mad at Milwaukee MPD because y'all failed. Y'all failed the system. Y'all failed me. Y'all failed everybody. Like, y'all, I'm traumatized now.
In Milwaukee, Ben Hansen, Fox 6 News.
So that is Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I recommend that woman should sue. She should sue. And I'm going to show you how you can check to see if this is happening to you, because luckily, and then I'll get back to what else is happening with these flock cameras, because it's scary. If you go to this website here, it's called Have I Been Flocked? I'll make it bigger for you here. What you can do is you can enter your license plate and click search. Obviously, I'm not going to enter my license plate on here, but you can do that and search for it to see if you have been flocked. Eric, if you get a chance, put the link to this in the chat so that people can check this, on their own time. But what I'm going to tell you guys is this. We are living in dangerous, scary times. That is absolutely ridiculous. Like I said, that woman could have lost her life. This is the second person that I've shown you on this show that has been misidentified by a flock camera for a crime. And then they're using them in ways that they shouldn't be used. And by they, I'm also talking about Milwaukee police. They did not want to do an interview. And this is part of the reason why. Because you see, a while back, it was reported that Milwaukee police, some of these officers were using these flock cameras for personal vendettas. Check this out.
Police officers accused of using flock safety cameras to search for a lover's location. Fox 6 investigator Brian Polson is live outside police admin, where he talked with Chief Jeffrey Norman. Brian.
Yeah, Police Chief Jeffrey Norman told me today he is disappointed and frustrated, while a policy analyst for the ACLU tells me he is not surprised. It was District 2 police officer Josue Ayala charged with attempted misconduct in public office. That's a misdemeanor. Prosecutors say the 8-year police veteran used his authorized access to the department's database of license plate scans to search for a person with whom he was in a relationship and to search that person's ex.
This is the problem. And this is one of the things I was afraid of too. Not just that this type of technology, this surveillance wouldn't just, get information wrong, but also that some people would use it for nefarious purposes, meaning that like this guy, this officer who tried to use a flock camera to find his ex-girlfriend, and then also apparently to find the information of the guy she's dating now. What is going on? That is not obviously what these were supposed to be for. It's supposed to be stopping crime, but there's going to be people that are going to try to use it for the wrong reasons. This, again, is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And you wonder why they didn't want to have an interview about the woman who had guns pointed to her face. There's always going to be those people.
They say he did it 179 different times. Police policy says officers are supposed to list the reason for every search, including the case number and the law enforcement related purpose for that search. But we're told Officer Ayala used just one word every time.
Where they're using one-word descriptions to justify why they are running people's license plates. And oftentimes the one-word description is just investigation. What are you investigating?
It's supposed to be used for the right reasons to ensure we impact public safety. And I take it very seriously when anyone within this organization harms or violate that public trust.
Now that's the Milwaukee police chief, but he defends the flock cameras, by the way. Like he says it's doing the right thing. Even looking at him, he kind of sounds like a kiss ass, but like he defends it. But the thing is, it's not even just that one guy. He's not the only one that's been doing this.
Now, according to the charging document, it was not police who figured out what was going on here. It was actually one of the victims who searched their own license plate on a website called HaveIBeenFlocked.com. Once the victim reported what they found to police, detectives conducted a follow-up investigation and found the nearly 200 unauthorized searches. Prosecutors say the misdemeanor charge, by the way, that was part of a negotiation. They say that Officer Ayala agreed to resign from the department as part of that agreement. A spokesman, though, tells me that as of at least yesterday, he is still a Milwaukee police officer. Ayala, no relation, by the way, to Milwaukee Police Association President Alex Ayala, but he is due in court March.
Okay, so that was just recent. I want to take you back again if you're just joining. If you go to this website called Have I Been Flocked and you search your license plate, you'll be able to see if these flock cameras have been, capturing your license plate. And this is how they're right. That's how they found out that he was doing personal searches on his ex-girlfriend, was because they were using this website to see if anyone was using a flock camera for their license plate. That's how they found out. That the police didn't uncover this on their own. And now I want to show you this as well. Here's another one. Security expert discusses alleged misuse of the controversial flock cameras. Like, this is not just Milwaukee. This is all over the U.S.
In tonight's deep dive, the growing backlash over the use of flock surveillance camera systems. And now a criminal investigation is underway into 6 former Savannah Police Department employees accused of misusing the technology. ABC's Olivia Rubin has more.
6 former Savannah Police Department employees, including 4 officers, are now under criminal investigation after being fired for allegedly misusing these controversial surveillance cameras made by the company Flock.
Totally honest, I'm disappointed. I'm pissed off about it.
The employees allegedly using the system to make personal searches involving family and acquaintances. The high-tech AI-powered cameras read license plates and store that data for police departments to use. Over 120,000 deployed nationwide to help fight crime. They're on streetlights, bridges, and highways. But
let me tell you something. So people using this to find ex-girlfriends, ex-boyfriends, they're using it for personal reasons to find information about other people. Like this is, again, abusing the system.
Backlash is growing amid rising reports of misuse. Dozens of officers now charged or accused of using the technology inappropriately, including stalking. This North Carolina police officer arrested for allegedly using it to track her boyfriend's ex-wife more than 30 times. She's set to appear in court at the end of the month.
So is that, and not just the guys, you have some of the women doing it too. Stalking the boyfriend, like what the hell?
That's what bothers me the most, that the people that use this stuff for personal gain.
Critics also calling these cameras an invasion of privacy. Some are being vandalized in acts of protest. In Texas, this camera cut in half. And in Minnesota, a man posting these videos of himself covering up the cameras with tape, telling ABC the technology is dangerous. But Flock telling ABC News their cameras do exactly what they're supposed to do.
We helped in over 1 million crimes last year, over 10,000 missing people.
And some agree.
Yeah, right.
The benefits, I believe, outweigh the issues here.
And Flock saying that criminal acts like vandalism should never be the answer here as people continue to make their voices heard in this ever-present debate about individual privacy versus public safety. Back to you,
Olivia.
Yeah. So the thing is, again, is like, there's always going to be people that are going to misuse it. Go to Have I Been Flocked? You can enter your license plate and check to see if you've been flocked. Because listen, guys, this should not be a partisan issue. This is going to impact all of us. Now, I have lived on this earth for all these years with no flock. You have lived on this earth all these years with no flock. And they say, well, these cameras are helping solve crimes. That's what police officers and detectives are supposed to do. So to me, it's just kind of like I said, that's why I call it surveillance. They're using it to stalk people, to spy on people. That's what they're using it for. So you really can't get angry and mad at the people who are tearing the flock cameras down. No, it's the law enforcement, the systems that are using it and using this also for nefarious reasons and getting the wrong information, going after people that you're not even supposed to go after and pointing guns at them. They are their own worst enemy. Now, you done lived on this earth for all this long without this technology. You mean to tell me that we have to have it now? You don't. Flock is making a lot of money, though. And so that's what a lot of it comes back to. Just follow the money. They're getting rich. Technology can be used for good or bad, but you always got people out there that's going to use it for bad things. But what I'm here to say is we don't need flock cameras. I haven't been flocking my whole life. Have you? Think about it. All right, all right. Let's go ahead to part 2, Eric. Thank you. All right, ladies and gents, if you haven't done so, do me a solid and smash the like button. Thank you very much. Let's go to some of the comments here, and then we're going to keep it moving and grooving. I'm flocked out. Sandra said, America is becoming Gaza. The surveillance. Thank you, Mark. Flock reminds me of the RoboCop movie where the beta RoboCops accidentally kill civilians. Roger says, get the flock out of here. Kathy, flock the cameras. Thank you, GT. The public is to be respected and protected, not played with. FM said, arresting for searching for old girlfriend location. I mean, Jan said the problem with surveillance is they use it for nefarious purposes. There you go. Thank you, Mark. Get the flock out of here. And thank you, GT. As a Marine, we address people as ma'am or sir. The respect comes from professionalism and discipline. You can't put on a uniform and not be a professional. You know, it's interesting too, because like when I was growing up, like we always had to call my dad sir. And my friends, you know, some of them would be like, why do you call your dad sir? And I was like, because that's what my dad said. My dad said, you say yes, sir, you know, and yes, ma'am, and no, sir, and no, ma'am, and things like that. And I didn't know if that was more so of like, I don't know if that was more of like a Southern thing or if that was more of a military thing. I don't know, but that's just kind of how it was in my household. You had to say yes, sir, no, sir, that type of thing. But yeah, man. Yeah. All right, let's get to the next story. This is kind of wild and crazy. Their own worst enemy. Remember this incident with the plane where Donald Trump got off of Air Force One to get onto a decoy plane because he was told that Iran was going to attempt to assassinate him while he was leaving Turkey? Just in case you forgot, let's take a look at that video one more time because we have new information now that actually makes the U.S. government look like a fool. Check it out. Now, as you can see here, again, that was him on Air Force One. But if you pay very close attention here, you'll see it says airport catering truck. There's the media boarding the plane. There's the truck pulling away. So Donald Trump actually pieced out there. So the media got onto that plane. There's the truck pulling away. And Donald Trump goes to get on that decoy plane. So everybody remember this, right? Okay. What if I told you that there was no assassination threat towards Donald Trump? Not from Iran or anyone. And what if I told you that the CIA has leaked information that says that this was all planted by Israel? Dun, dun, dun. Here we go again. Iran wasn't trying to assassinate Donald Trump. They're not even looking at him like that. But it's interesting that our own CIA are the ones that are actually calling Israel out here for this ridiculous scene and stunt that was pulled. The CIA reportedly doubted Israeli intel on Iranian threat that led Trump to swap planes. We have to remember he swapped planes because the Israeli intel said Iran was trying to or going to attempt to assassinate him. So the CIA is releasing this information that says, no, they really weren't a threat. CIA analysts expressed skepticism to the Trump administration about Israeli intelligence regarding an Iranian assassination plot that led to the U.S. president secretly switching planes while departing Turkey last month. Israel told the CIA about the threat. See, remember when we first covered this, I told you guys that it probably came from Israel. Israel told the CIA about the threat, but analysts there didn't find it compelling. This is according to the Washington Post. They said they were citing current and former U.S. officials familiar with the intelligence. One of the officials who spoke to the newspaper dismissed the intelligence as Israeli-derived, not U.S.-generated, and viewed as low confidence. What that means is that they saw nothing there that would lead them to believe that this was actually going to happen. And he switched planes. The Secret Service has had 3 near misses with this president, so they're not taking any chances. They did what they had to do, the official added. A former official, meanwhile, was quoted as saying the incident fit a broader pattern of Israeli intelligence, reporting that some officials see as designed as much to shape the presidential decision-making as to inform it. This just goes to show you how, once again, how Israel can just make the president, the U.S. government jump just like that. That official noted that, according to his understanding, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio was briefed on the intelligence, but he chose to fly on an ostensibly threatened plane anyway, suggesting some measure of confidence that it was safe to do so. And this is a big kicker here. If Marco Rubio, who's also a part of the Trump administration, if he had no problem flying on that plane, then Marco Rubio knew for sure, oh yeah, they're not going to come after this plane. What did I tell you? You think Marco Rubio would have knowingly just got on that plane after receiving that intel and saying, okay, well, yeah, let me get on it anyway. And if they blow up the plane, they just blow up the plane. You really think he would have said that? No, because he knew it wasn't real. The world is a stage. It goes on to show you here, the Post said the White House would not comment directly on the report. Of course not. As the president has said, he has faced numerous threats on his life, including ones from Iran, and every measure is taken to ensure his safety. The U.S. Secret Service core mission is protecting the president, which they achieved. And it goes on to tell you how he snuck away off that plane and got onto another plane. It says here, of course, that Tuesday, U.S. intelligence had multiple sources of information about planes to fire a surface-to-air missile at Air Force One. But again, that report came from Israeli intelligence. So the state of Israel, which our government wants to support so much, you see how they just put this stuff out there? And then they just make them jump just like that. Iran isn't trying to assassinate the president of the United States. Iran isn't even thinking about Donald Trump. But Israel wants you to believe that they are. Because if there is another, so this was a fake assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life. But if there is another one to come, they tell you there's another one that is going to come. The goal is Israel is trying to convince Americans that Iran wants to assassinate Donald Trump. That's the thing. They're trying to convince you of that. Even if it means that they might have to be the ones to, you know what I'm saying. It says here, additionally, the Iranians had zeroed in on Trump's exact location in Ankara, down to specific floor of the hotel of his building, according to the report, which cited 2 U.S. officials with knowledge to this matter. You see what they were saying? Israel told them all of this. The report on Trump being clandestinely put on a different aircraft and quietly whisked out of the country, added a fresh layer to just how serious concerned U.S. security officials are about the threat to the president. And this is going to be the ongoing thing, right? So they're bringing up Soleimani. You guys know that Donald Trump was the one that put the hit out on General Soleimani. So what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to convince you that the Iranian people are wanting to get revenge on Donald Trump for the assassination of General Soleimani. And so Israel is trying to go ahead and put that message out there to put it into everyone's heads so that if something happened to Donald Trump, you would be forced to believe that it was Iran. Honestly, though, I don't think that's going to work. For those of us that have a brain, I don't think that's going to work. So the CIA, again, are the ones that are coming out and saying, yeah, we didn't believe this. This is where we're at now. Jeremy Lafredo said, the intelligence that had Trump hiding in a catering truck came from Israel. I wonder where the intel came from that has Trump playing golf with a missile defense system. It's obvious that Israel is trying to frighten Trump into maintaining a hard line against Iran using the most unbelievable intelligence that even the CIA sees as bogus. Here we go. Yeah. So we showed you that part as well, where Donald Trump was playing golf, right, with defense system right next to him. So that's what they're trying to do. But I'm just warning you guys, don't believe it. Don't fall for it. This is what Trump said recently about not trusting Iran.
I don't trust Iran. Why? Are you saying I trust Iran? I'm the last person to trust Iran. They've lied to me constantly. We have total control over the Hormuz Strait right now. They don't have control. We have total control. We own it. And at some point, maybe they'll do something and then they get blown away. But right now, we're in a very good position. We have a country that has been the bully of the Middle East for 50 years. It's really 51 if you think about it, right? We've been saying 47 for 4 years. And they're no longer the bully of the Middle East. Thank you very much, everybody.
So Israel is not the country that's being bullied, obviously. They're the ones that are the bullies. Okay. And so let me explain what I think this says to the. It makes the president look weak. It makes the president look as though they do not have the strength, the capability, and the fortitude to lead this country. Just for the CIA to put that out just a day later, it's embarrassing, and it makes the president look like a fool. On the world stage, and the West is small compared to the rest of the world, on the world stage, people are laughing. People are laughing at Donald Trump. They're laughing at the West and like, damn, the mofos are stupid. It's embarrassing. And there's more. Because even Fox News now is having to push back on Trump's statements when they get into the conversation here about the barrels of oil through the Strait of Hormuz. They now have to say, well, Trump is incorrect. Listen.
How much? Total oil flow averages nearly 21 million barrels per day in the first half of last year, equivalent to about 20% of global petroleum liquids consumption. Usually about 1/5 of the world's liquefied natural gas trade moves through there as well. Despite President Trump claiming total control over the strait, traffic has slowed really to a trickle. If you look at this, before the conflict, more than 100 vessels a day were crossing.
So interesting, right? So he had to push back on what Donald Trump said, because if you follow this online, you can see it for yourself as well. I mean, Donald Trump has been lying about the oil. We all know the oil flow has slowed down. So even Fox News has to go against what he said.
Monday, 8 vessels crossed. Yesterday, 14. Now, those are constraints, and that's changing the government's energy outlook. The Energy Information Administration raised its forecast for the average price of a gallon of gasoline over the full year by 14 cents. You can see right here. It also raised its 2026 forecast for Brent crude from $82 a barrel to $87 a barrel. And there's another problem building as well. The International Energy Agency says global crude oil inventories fell by 2.2 million barrels a day in July. It expects a global supply deficit of 1.8 million barrels a day in the third quarter. That's more than double its previous estimate. Now,
he can only hide this for so long. I don't know how much the gas is where you guys are, but where I live, gas is still over $4 for me. You can only lie about this for so long. It's not Iran. It's not Venezuela. It's not any of these other countries. It's not Cuba. It's our government is their own worst enemy. None of these countries were just minding their own business. But we always got to go poke our nose and bomb people and kill people and steal resources and all these things. And karma is a bitch. And Donald Trump, listening to this advice from Benjamin Netanyahu, Donald Trump overplayed his hand with Iran, not realizing, yes, they control the Strait of Hormuz. Check this out. Iran has shifted from defense to offense. Shout out to the Hormuz letter here. Aggressively restructuring its military for an offensive posture abroad and warning to prolong the war until Trump leaves office January 20th, 2029. We might have to sound the gong one for that one, ladies and gents. We might got to do it. Many of you may be wondering, how are they going to do this? Oh, they have been preparing for this. They've been preparing. So it says, after Khamenei approved an extensive reorganization, appointing hardliners to top the IRGC positions. The IRGC senior advisor, this is General Mohammed, he declared that even if this war lasts for years, we will fire missiles until the very end. Warning, America has thousands of economic interests around the world, and all of them will be easily destroyed. So they're going to hit us in the pocket. Nakhti adds that we had never experienced a real full-scale war with America before. So we don't know exactly how to fight America. In these 5 months, we have learned how to do it. Concluding, in this war, we realize that the American army is weaker than we thought. Whenever the conditions are favorable and the order is issued, we must be able to take the operation into enemy territory. Ladies and gentlemen, that means they are going on the offensive. What that means is that they go after those American companies. The U.S. is screwed. And I have to remind once again, this is Ayatollah Khamenei's son. The U.S. government in Israel assassinated Ayatollah Khamenei, who was a bit more measured and a bit more patient. His son is not. So sometimes our government needs to be careful what they ask for, because the Ayatollah who was there was willing to work with you a little bit more. The new Ayatollah, his son, says hell to the no. We are not going to be bullied by the U.S. government, especially after you've killed civilians. We are not going to be bullied by Israel. But we're also not going to sit around and wait for you to strike us again. So we're going on the offensive. Now, how could things have been different? If the U.S. and Israel didn't strike Iran, we wouldn't even be having this conversation right now. Your gas probably wouldn't be over $4, $5, $6, wherever it is, like where you live. And the Strait of Hormuz would still have those 100+ barrels of oil flowing every day. But mofos decided to get greedy. And check this out. Shout out to Dropside News. Saudi Arabia crude loading activity at its Red Sea terminals has fallen by roughly 50% since Ansar Allah began its blockade. Now, this is according to a researcher's review of available Sentinel-1 and Sentinel-2 satellite images from 8 weeks before the blockade and the 3.5 weeks since beginning of July 20th. The tankers at King Fahd and Majiz terminals were carrying an estimated average of 10 million barrels during each satellite pass before the blockade. Now, this is compared with around 5 million afterward. One comparison showed about 10 million barrels loading before the blockade and 4 million after. You can see here, one of the images. This ain't nothing to mess with, huh? This is where we're at now. Saudi Arabia finding out the hard way too. And this is going to be the killer. Let's talk about the money. Iran says it will soon join BRICS Development Bank. Oh, snap. Iranian Central Bank Governor Hemati, he announced that Iran will soon become a member of the new development bank, the NDB, also known as the BRICS Bank, while attending BRICS Summit in India. He described the NDB as the most significant achievement of BRICS cooperation. He praised India's presidency of the bloc and said that Iran and India have expanded cooperation in the monetary, banking, and digital economy sectors, as reported by Tasnim News Agency. We're fucked. See, Iran is making sure they had other options. You can't blame them. You can't blame them. Iran says the West may fall, but we will not. Hemati said that the BRICS summit provides an important opportunity to strengthen Iran's monetary and banking ties with fellow member states. He added that BRICS countries are discussing greater monetary and financial cooperation, including conducting trade in their national currencies. And he said that Iran is seeking to establish bilateral and trilateral monetary cooperation with other BRICS members. Notice it said conducting trade in their national currencies. We didn't have to be here. It didn't have to be this way. Everything could have been cool. I don't trust Modi either. Who said that in the chat? Rev, don't trust Modi. I don't trust Modi either. I don't trust him either. Modi tries to have it both ways. Like he want to do business with Israel. He still want to be pro-Israel, but he's also a part of BRICS. And it's just like, I don't know. India's all over the damn place. But here we are. So if things hit the fan, Iran is making sure they're preparing themselves financially now that they will be okay. Will we? Will we? So the fact that the CIA leaked that information and they said that, yeah, that Israeli intelligence, yeah, it was bogus. You know, we didn't trust it to begin with. It makes the president of the United States look weak, and also it makes him look like a fool. Israel says jump, he says how high. Now, obviously, of course, the U.S. government and Israel, it's a shared partnership, right? Because if the U.S. government didn't like what Israel was doing, they wouldn't send them the money. They would end that partnership right away. But they need Israel there because that is the Middle East military base that is supposed to be there to keep those other countries in check. It's really not about what's best for the Jewish people. It's not about religion. It's a secular state. It is a U.S. military base in the Middle East that is there to keep the other Arab countries in check. And there's just one problem. They underestimated Iran. We are now in the FAFO phase. And wow. I just, and it's not even 2027 yet. But I'm just like, even in 2026, what else is going to happen? What else is going to happen? But I'm going to tell you, we're going to hear this over and over again. I think there's going to be multiple alleged attempts on Donald Trump's life. That's what we're going to be told. Get ready for it. And I think they're really going to try to make it stick where they can try to blame Iran. So let's program this into our heads now so that when that moment comes, if and when that moment comes, we don't fall for the bullshit. Okay. All right. All right. I got one more for you, folks. We're going to end on a funny note because this is actually a pretty funny story. So let's go ahead and get into this one. If you have not done so, do me a solid and smash the like. Thank you very much. And let's get into, we got the announcement on the other one. Okay, I'll tell you guys the announcement later. Okay, time to have a little bit of laugh. When we talk about someone being their own worst enemy, I don't think there's anyone better at that than Ben Shapiro. Talking fast doesn't get you out of these situations. And just recently, he was on PBD's podcast talking about Tucker Carlson. And Tucker Carlson decided to respond to Ben Shapiro by leaking information about Ben Shapiro, basically exposing him as a fraud. So let's get into it. What exactly did Ben Shapiro say that probably ticked off Tucker Carlson? So first and foremost, they were talking about this whole Groyper movement in the Republican Party. Listen to this.
GOP staffers say the party has a Groyper problem. So Groyper problem, we're talking about Fuentes. So yeah, polling shows that the overwhelming majority of young conservatives reject anti-Semitic views. Though their support for Israel has dropped significantly from their prior generations, they also are more skeptical of military intervention than forebears. The oldest members of the Gen Z cohort were toddlers on 9/11, grew up in an era of multi-decade, multi-trillion-dollar wars, and found themselves unable to afford homes as they reached adulthood. Many come of their mistrust of GOP orthodoxy, honestly. So do you think there is a Groyper problem on the right?
I mean, obviously, Nick has built himself a nice-sized audience, and I think that a lot of these sort of, edgy, half comedy, half not comedy stuff that he's doing has traffic. I mean, transgressive politics is always attractive to young people, whether it's Hassan Piker saying he loves Mao on the left, or whether it's Fuentes saying he loves Hitler on the right. Kind of violating the rules is always sexy to people, and so it kind of bespeaks authenticity, or it bespeaks humor, or whatever it is. So yeah, no, I think that there's a legitimate issue with people who believe some of the things. And because at a certain point, and you see this with the DSA left, the same way you're seeing with the Groyper right, is it's all joking until it's not joking, right? Like you joke about Hitler, and at a certain point you're like, am I really joking about Hitler, or was he really kind of okay? Like, was he really kind of an OG, or was he not? Right? Like, have we really been sold about?
You think he's joking? You think
I don't think that Fuentes is joking. I think that he likes to use humor as a cover for the fact that he is not joking, actually.
You know what I was thinking about just the other day when we were talking about people that were actors and people that were created? I think Ben Shapiro was also created. I do. Now, I think he believes what he believes, but I think like his persona, his mannerism, I think he also is essentially another creation. I really do. Patrick Bet David is just a greedy mofo. Biggest sellout dude, the sellout. He don't like his own damn people. Patrick Bet David bowing to Netanyahu and all this stuff. The guy started a pyramid scheme. You guys remember those pyramid schemes? Like, I know there's like Avon and Amway and all that kind of stuff. So he started a pyramid scheme. Patrick Bet David did. And like, he basically ripped off a bunch of people. I don't know if people forget about this, but he did. Before there was the PBD podcast, he had this multi-level pyramid scheme and he ripped a bunch of people off. So this guy just be trying to make money any kind of way. He don't really care where he gets, it's just ripping people off and all this kind of stuff. And he's such a sellout, man. Oh God.
I think that his belief system is I'll grant him the courtesy of sincerity. I think he's sincere in his belief systems. I think he's wrong, but I think much of what he says is quite morally terrible. But I think that he comes by it honestly.
You work with him.
I did not. So
did he work? What was the relationship with you guys back in the days? Because I know he came on. I asked him the question.
So he has this whole like weird villain origin story that he's come up with regard to his rise and Daily Wire and all this. I'll be honest with you, I don't remember pretty much any of this because this was not important to me at any point in my life. So this is like the only thing I remember is that Cassie Dillon, now Cassie Akiva, was friends with Fuentes, I believe, and she texted me a debate that Fuentes had done. I think he was at BU at the time on immigration. And he did a tremendous job because Nick is a smart guy. Like he's again, I think what he believes is quite terrible, but he has some IQ. And so I had Daily Wire cover that debate because it was an immigration debate. And then I don't know if I was following him on Twitter or what the story was. Some tweet.
Yeah, he was retweeting Nick Fuentes. And I guess the effort was some type of hope to try to get him over towards, Daily Wire, right? Like kind of like how he did with that Matt kid now or whatever, trying to get them, when they're young. And then they try to basically program them into being this model Daily Wire person that they want them to be. Now, all of a sudden, he having a hard time remembering.
His came up where he was basically accusing anybody who's pro-Israel of dual loyalty. And I said, that's an anti-Semitic trope that everybody who supports Israel is loyal to the state of Israel over the United States or is more loyal or as loyal to Israel as to the United States. And he uses that, I guess, now as sort of like, and that's when I decided that I had to go don the dark cape.
All right. That's the first part where he brings up the Nick Fuentes part. And this connects to Tucker Carlson here. I think he was talking about he refused to debate him and stuff like that. Yeah. So it's interesting. All of a sudden, people's memories they're not there anymore.
What's more likely to happen? A sit down with you and Tucker or sit down with you and Nick?
I mean, neither is particularly likely, I would imagine. The Tucker, I've offered 1,000 times, open invite. Nick is a bit of a different story. And the reason that Nick is a bit of a different story is because Nick's entire mode, and listen, I admire it. I even sometimes get a bizarre kick out of it. But Nick's entire mode is he's a comedian. Okay, Nick is a comedian masquerading as a political pundit. He has political views, but in essence, he's a comedian. And you can't really have an honest political conversation with a comedian. It'd be more like interviewing Dave Chappelle or something, but like Nazi Dave Chappelle. Meaning, what does Nick believe? What does he not believe? I don't know. I mean, it depends on what's funny at the moment. And so trying to...
So you don't think he has core beliefs?
No, I mean, I do think that he has core beliefs, but I think that one of the tactics that he uses to avoid being pinned down on his core beliefs is diffusing with humor. And I think that when you try to pin him down with that, then the idea is that you're an uncool person for even asking him to be pinned down on that sort of thing. And so there's no sort of honest conversation that can be had about like, what are your core beliefs and are they right or are they wrong? Because that's not what he does. I think when he's asked a tough question, then he immediately reverts to the sort of 17-year-old humor that, listen, people can find it transgressively funny. I, on occasion, find it transgressively funny. But that is not an honest conversation about his politics or his principles. And I don't think that that's probably in the offing.
I think he's different when he's on the mic and on the screen talking, him and the camera like this versus one-on-one.
Well, I think
very different
listen,
one-on-one.
Also, obviously, his incentive structure, if we were to sit down together, would be to get the own the Shapiro moment, right? And then blow it up all over the internet, clearly.
Would you ever have him on?
Would I ever have him on? I mean, it depends. Again, if he were, I would. The answer is no, I think. But the reason I'm hesitating is because if I got the impression that he were willing to have like an actual serious sit down conversation without all of the, now I'm just going to call you a Jew for the shits and giggles of it, so that the audience goes crazy. Like I'm not interested in that.
Why
right?
not?
Why am I not interested in having on somebody who just calls me a Jew for the shits and giggles of it? Because I think
I actually don't think he'll do that. I actually don't think he'll do that.
So I mean, listen,
So what's interesting about this conversation? So here's Patrick Bet-David. I actually don't think that he'll do that. I just don't. Look, Nick Fuentes is able to do what he does because you do have people like the Ben Shapiros and Patrick Bet-David and them that continue to make sure that they keep him relevant. That's why he's able to do what he does. If everybody just ignored him, he would go away. So they actually help him. They help his legitimacy by constantly talking about him. Right? But when he gets into this part here also about Tucker, this is the part where that is someone that Ben Shapiro did know. I mean, still does know, but may not have a relationship with anymore, but definitely did know. And the question there then lies, you know, why aren't you having that face-to-face conversation with him? I don't expect the Nick Fuentes one to happen, but why aren't you having that face-to-face conversation with Tucker Carlson? That's the question.
If you could convince me of that, then I would do it.
Yeah,
like
I don't think he would do that.
Or the, you know,
I think it would be a real good debate, and it would be a good conversation. And I think a lot of the youth would sit there and say, "Good for Ben for having him on." It would be what a lot of people would never see coming, and I think you would be more surprised on how he is one-on-one. By the way, just so you know,
I mean, again,
from the day he's been on my podcast,
I'm sure he's a very nice guy.
And let me guess, Patrick Bet David would offer to moderate that conversation if willingly. Anything for clicks.
No one-on-one.
From the day he was here with me, the interview, till today, him and I haven't spoken at all.
Yeah.
So it's not like a fake conversation,
of course.
anything like that. I just think it would be a good conversation to have him. And, you know, selfishly, I would also like to see you and Tucker sitting down. You on his or him on yours.
Again,
I know, and that's not
I've
happening.
offered Tucker that about 1,000 times.
I've seen that.
And I really doubt that's going to happen. Again, I think that there's a misalignment of incentives. I think that you know, Nick, let's put it this way, Nick does not want to be pinned down on his ideological beliefs.
I don't think that conversation with Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson should happen at the Daily. Like, it has to be a neutral space. You know what I mean? Like, it can't be at Tucker Carlson's studio. It can't be at Ben Shapiro's studio. It needs to be a neutral space. And maybe that one indeed maybe should have a moderator, right? Because the reality is when you go into someone else's space that you got some tension with, and you're going to see what Tucker says here after this. When you go into someone else's space that you got some tension with, the reality is they already have the upper hand because you're on their turf. It's a psychological thing. I didn't used to believe this, but then later on I realized it is actually true. So you're better off just going to a neutral area where you can, you know, both just kind of hash it out or whatever. That's what I think. But I would imagine that Tucker Carlson is not wanting to go onto the Daily Wire
with data or with counter argument that is serious. And so his incentive structure very strongly would be to sort of do the Piers Morgan interview, right? Like if you watch Nick's interview with Piers Morgan, again, I found it amusing too, because Nick's really good at that game, but Piers is trying to pin him down on his beliefs about the Holocaust. And so what Nick does is he immediately launches into a bunch of jokes about the Holocaust. Well, again, those jokes may be transgressively funny, but that doesn't actually get to the root of the issue. Is everyone smarter for having heard that? I think actually everyone might be stupider for having heard this.
Yeah.
That's the hard part, right? A level of debate requires a level of sincere revelation of your interior beliefs and willing to defend them. If what you're going to do is run away to comedy or to humor or to insult, then that's not worthwhile. It doesn't advance the ball.
You know, there's a difference with comedy, and there's a difference with rage baiting comments that you know it's going to get under your skin. I think if, like, when I was at Amphist and somebody asked me a question, why won't you sit down with Nick? I said, I'm not comfortable with him saying the N-word all the time. And I said it from stage. I'm like, I just want you to be respectful. You know, I listened to hip hop for many years, and
but you were comfortable talking to Benjamin Netanyahu? Okay.
Maybe a little bit too much when I was a kid, but I chose to change and I went a different direction in my life. And then we had a very respectful conversation together. Like, Crowder's funny. Crowder is one of the most talented guys. I know you guys had something that happened many years ago, but I think Crowder is super talented.
Of course.
And he's funny as shit, like this stuff they used to do back in the days. You're like, who is this guy? You would watch him. You would say, super brilliant, but he's also able to do this. So,
again, I think it is important for me to say at this point that at no point, so what's funny is that there's been this conflation. I'm just going to make this point because you're not making it, but I know that how the internet works. I'm not saying that anybody should take away Nick Fuentes' microphone or anyone else's microphone. Whether I choose to be on a podcast with somebody or not choose to be on a podcast that is an aspect of free speech, the same as it is whether I want to or whether I don't want to. So again, I think there are circumstances under which I would do something like that, but I'd have to believe certain things about how he would approach the thing in order to mean that I would think it's worthwhile. Now, other people might think it's worthwhile, right? But they're not me, so
I think.
Let's get into what Tucker Carlson said here, because this is he talks about the creation of Ben Shapiro.
We're not playing this to suggest that Ben Shapiro was like a shaper of history, a mover in American politics. He's not. He's an employee like most everybody else. He's doing what he's told. He represents larger interests, obviously. So why bother to replay and then rebut something that Ben Shapiro said? Well, in an effort to speak to the people who put him up to it. So the whole point of Ben Shapiro, and there is a point to Ben Shapiro, this is not like some organic phenomenon. Like Ben Shapiro was just so charming and brilliant that he somehow got into Harvard Law School and then, eyebrows and all, emerged as a social media titan. No, of course not.
Oh, catch that? Somehow got into Harvard Law School. So, a lot of these people, they have strings pulled for them. Harvard Law School, the hardest law school to get into in the United States? All right. Even some of the smartest people don't get in, right? The fact that he kind of just snuck that in there like that tells me maybe Ben had some strings pulled. This is why you don't piss off your homies. This is why you don't piss off the people that, you had like this kind of relationship with, because especially the ones that got receipts, because he has receipts apparently.
Ben Shapiro had a deal with Facebook, a deal no one else got. And so the point of Ben Shapiro was, here's a way to send a very specific message to outline and sell a very specific worldview to young people. Ben Shapiro is an old person's idea of a young person. He is.
He's an old person's idea of a young person.
Person's idea of a young person. He is a spokesman for a group of older people aimed at younger people. I have an idea. Let's get Ben Shapiro. This guy, Ben Shapiro, he's brilliant. He's a really promising young kid. And we'll get him to sell free market economics and a robust Reaganite foreign policy to the young folks. And by the way, it kind of worked for a while, thanks to the trans movement, which you suspect they also kind of concocted, this same group. But whatever, wherever that came from, for a while, Ben Shapiro seemed like he was on the side of common sense, and he's for free speech, and he's against the trans lunacy, et cetera, et cetera. But always, from day one, the point was Ben Shapiro is going to sell this very specific version of economics, not capitalism. It bears no resemblance to anything Adam Smith advocated for, but the kind of modern American monopoly arrangement where 6 companies can behave like countries, have sovereignty, unlike our own nation, and control every part of your life through debt.
I just want to add something here. The very first time I heard of Ben Shapiro, it was before Donald Trump won the 2016 presidential race. And it's almost as if like that was a different person then, because I remember Ben Shapiro back then, he was saying that, this guy is awful. Donald Trump does not need to be president of the United States. Like, he was constantly going after Trump back then, basically saying that Trump was erratic and this guy he's stupid and all this. I don't know if everybody remembers this, but he did not support Donald Trump as president in 2016. Then it was after Donald Trump became president, and I guess he started to see, waited a little bit, see some of the things that Trump was doing, and then he jumped on that Trump train. So this is what I remember. And so it was weird to me that you went from this person should not be president of the United States. This person is lying all the time. Like, he used to call these things out. And then what I think happened, I think that he saw that it was more profitable to get on that Trump train. That's what I think happened. But these people don't come out of nowhere. It's a script. Like they're actors, like they're given a, you know what I mean? Like nobody wakes up one day and says, and I'll give you an example. Most people that are in political YouTube, most of us are not of that level of like a Ben Shapiro, right? Like we don't have millions and millions of like followers. Most of us don't. And most of us don't have all these different like billionaires coming up to us or corporations coming up to us, throwing money at us to help our media grow. For most of us, that doesn't happen. They do that with people that they feel as though is going to be great for their agenda. And by their agenda, I mean the corporate agenda. Ben was a great tool for that. There's been others. Brandon Tatum's another one. Out there telling people why refi, which is just basically a fucking scam. So they find people that they know are, one, going to be willing to take the money, but two, are going to be willing to put corporate interests first. And so Tucker here is talking about debt. Debt's a big problem that many people, a lot of us have in this country. Hey, I got student loan debt. I'm right there with a lot of you. So it's a big problem. But Ben Shapiro is of the mindset that it's all on you. Whatever if you got debt, that's your fault, and nobody else should help you with that, and all these types of things. And again, that's what corporatists want to hear. So that benefits their narrative. Blame it on the worker. Don't blame it on the billionaire class. Don't blame it on the Epstein class. And damn sure, whatever you do, don't blame the corporations.
Which is kind of broad, but fairly accurate definition of our current economic system. So sell that, and then sell the even harder to pitch idea that it's unpatriotic to oppose wars for Israel. Like, first of all, it's obviously anti-Semitic. I mean, it's just an expression of hate. If you don't want to regime change some country you can't find on a map, obviously you're a bigot. You're basically a Nazi. In fact, you must be for Hitler. You probably are opposed to the Second World War too. You probably have problems with Churchill. It's literally immoral to oppose Ben Shapiro's employer's foreign policy. But it's also un-American. Like, this country was founded to fight wars for Israel. That's why we're here. I mean, our founder said explicitly, America exists as a Judeo-Christian country to support Israel. Okay? So whatever prime minister of that country wants, we're doing. I mean, that's why we're here. So if you're against it, you don't believe in America. You're against America. Why don't you just leave? Maybe we'll revoke your green card. Oh, don't I have a green card? We'll strip you your citizenship. And that's what ICE exists to do now. In any case, you should know watching this that these are not just Ben Shapiro's opinions, to the extent he actually has opinions, who knows? But these are the opinions of the people who prop up Ben Shapiro, who created Ben Shapiro. And this is what they think. This is the argument they sincerely believe, apparently, is going to appeal to young people who are worried about the price of burrito.
Now, yeah, there's this whole burrito thing price that's happening. Now, again, I don't believe there's any such thing as Judeo-Christian. I had never heard that before in my life until more recently. And I grew up in the church. So I don't believe in that whole like the Judeo-Christian stuff. Like, yeah, whatever. Get out of here with all that. It is really interesting, again, to note, like, a lot of things are coming out now. Like, now it's like, basically what he's saying is that Ben Shapiro is being used as a mouthpiece to speak for the people that prop him up, and that prop him up with money and other resources. This has been going on for a long time, where we need to pull back the curtain and see the person behind the curtain. Where the person who is the spokesperson is often not the one that is actually turning the wheel. They're just puppets. So the people that you see in front of the curtain on stage, like Ben Shapiro and all the rest of them, Patrick Bet-David and his crazy ass, those are the performers. That's why they're on stage. The real power is the people who are behind the curtain. And that's usually who we don't see. They don't want to put themselves out there in no way, shape, or form. And now Tucker got to remember that he participated in some of this too. He's speaking out more about it now, but for quite some time, he participated in some of this as well. And so there's a lot that's happening, folks. I think that more and more information may come out, but it's like I was telling you about the people who were created, and you can kind of tell, like, you can tell by, I've seen two channels in particular that have the same thumbnail format with the same colors, where they have like the purple, a little bit of the red and the blue, and they have the thick white lettering. And I've seen two different channels, same thumbnail format, same graphic, similar situation, where they just seem to pop up out of nowhere overnight. Nobody gets to 1 million subscribers overnight unless somebody prop your ass up. I know how this works. Unless you're a public figure or celebrity, there you go. But if you're someone that is not a public figure, that is not a celebrity, and all of a sudden you just come out of nowhere on YouTube and you have over 1 million subs just like that, nah, you were propped up. The algorithm don't work like that. Many of us know. I've been doing this for a while. We know. So what he's basically saying is that Ben Shapiro was one of those people. And Ben Shapiro's been attacking him, and he's been attacking Ben Shapiro, and they've been going back and forth. And Tucker comes from money. Ben Shapiro has money. But a lot of times, you know, he mentioned Harvard Law School and stuff like that. A lot of times these people are sought out early. I think the same way Ben Shapiro considered trying to seek out Nick Fuentes, who he saw tweeting online and all those things, is the same way somebody plucked Ben Shapiro out of a crowd. They get them when they're young. And it's working against Ben Shapiro nowadays because of his undying love and support for Israel. But it makes you wonder, what else does Tucker know? I've seen a lot of breakups. I've seen a lot of breakups in the space, and it makes you wonder, what else does Tucker Carlson know about Ben Shapiro? That he was just a part of this machine where they just pop out these influencers and they say, here you go. And like I said, you can tell the difference. You can usually tell. Tucker Carlson has been leaning a little bit more into talking about debt. I talked about those 10 points that he had recently, which many of those I do agree with. But like I said, I would add some of my own things in there. You know how I do. You know, I got to spice it up. But he's been leaning more into this debt conversation also because of the economic condition of Americans right now. The economy is not good, and it's the number one issue that's pissing a lot of Americans off, according to the polling. And you just ask Americans, you hear that too. Then there's this issue with Donald Trump and JD Vance. And JD Vance, it appears, is most likely going to run for president. JD Vance is friends with Tucker Carlson. Like, they're friends. And so one or two things is happening. Either Tucker Carlson is putting this platform forward because he's trying to either convince JD Vance, but then they said at that dinner, that meeting that they had, that they felt like JD Vance was compromised and they were trying to convince Tucker Carlson to run for president. I don't think Tucker Carlson is actually going to run for president. But, you know, I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. But it seems as though something is happening here. And I'm looking at the data. And the data shows me that the Daily Wire is bleeding subscribers. Bleeding still till this day. Tucker's not. Ben's on the wrong side of history. But because he's propped up and he's created, he's still getting paid. So we'll have to see what comes from this, what happens with this. But I really feel as though like Ben Shapiro is, again, his own worst enemy. He can blame Candace. He can blame Tucker. He can blame Nick Fuentes. He can point fingers at any of these people. But at the end of the day, his downfall has been because of his undying defense and support of Israel. That's when people started leaving. And one day we may find out, and I don't know, one day we may find out that all these people are feds. I don't know. One day we may be finding out that a lot of these folks are feds. We'll have to wait and see for that one. All right. I have a quick announcement. This is some good news. I think you guys are going to like it. Remember Ariana, the girl who was fired from Burger King because she said free Palestine? Look what they did for Ariana in Gaza. I have to mute it because of the music. So they painted a mural of Ariana. It's so cute. It's so sweet. Yeah. And there's the Burger King with the X on it. Yeah. Ariana, you are loved. Ariana is loved. That was so sweet. I wanted to show you guys that because just wanted you to know that they know. See how news travels? They know. They're very well aware. Guys, just a quick reminder. Thank you so much for everyone that donated to the back to school donation. Our event is Saturday. We reached our fundraising goal. So I already closed the spot fund campaign, so you can't donate. But I just wanted to show you guys that we did reach our goal. We actually got a little bit over our goal. So thank you to everybody that donated to us, to everybody that mailed items to our P.O. box. Really do appreciate you guys. And it means a lot to a lot of us. So this is our third year doing the back to school donation, and it's one of our biggest events. And so I will be very, very busy Saturday for that event. So thank you guys so much. Really do appreciate it. Many of you are asking, when am I going to do the next mutual aid workshop? We'll do it in September. August is really busy for me because I have this event and I have a couple other things coming up. But we will do the next mutual aid workshop September. I'll announce that on here on the show, and I'll also announce it via my newsletter. So that way you guys know about it. But yeah, also, if Saturday morning doesn't work for you, let me know. I know one person reached out and they told me they want to come, but they can't do Saturday morning. So if you feel as though the time slot and the day doesn't work for you, email me and let me know. I'm open to do it a different time. I just assumed, Saturday might be easy for a lot of people. But yeah, this is what we're all about. Like, we have to continue to teach people other things that they can do, right? Like, mutual aid is a part of building dual power. That's part of it. And there's many other things, other types of organizing that you can do. And that's what I'm about. And that's what we're about on here. And just getting people to realize, like, you don't have to wait on these politicians to do some of these things for you. We should be getting into ballot measures pretty soon. I'm going to be talking about some of those ballot measures that are going to be on the ballot this November. So if you live in a ballot initiative state, you definitely want to know about that. So that way you, for the people who don't want to vote, you definitely want to make sure you vote for those ballot measures, because that's going to impact your state. It's just real as it is. A couple of things, I think, like ranked choice voting, a couple constitutional amendments. There's some about policing. I don't remember all of them off the top of my head. I think minimum wage might be on some of these. So these things are really important, and that's direct democracy. So this is a way that there's a question on the ballot and you just vote for that question. You're not voting for a political party or a candidate. And I think that's the best way to go about things. So definitely. All right, guys, that is it for me. I will see you on Sunday, and Eric is going to close out the show. All right.
Hey. So I can just hear Benji saying, "I'm not a Fed." You're a Fed. Everybody always just says that about me. I don't know why they say that. Right.
He threw the eyebrows in there too. He said, "Don't forget the thick eyebrows."
But You know what I always just come back to with all this is just the whole, two sets of interest thing in
Mhm.
that old pyramid of power. And it's really, whether it's like Khanna or whether it's Ben Shapiro or even Tucker himself, it's about, whether they're about the billionaire interests or our interests. So I think if we can kind of put things into that framing, they can make more sense, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
the war
And you
and
see,
everything
we
else.
gotta change. We have to change it now to billionaires and trillionaires.
And trillionaires, really.
We can fit it on there.
Do a little edit.
Yeah.
But oh man, and then the one other thing I wanted you to see before you go, the super chat from NY Varsity Sports, Jason, who says, Sabby, your whole army followed you to TYT. Cenk was like, whoa.
Oh, thanks. That's so sweet, guys. That's so sweet. Yeah. It was, it was great to be on there. It was great to, again, like we don't agree on everything. But we agree on a lot of things, but it was nice to talk about like, some of the positives that are happening, right? Like I think sometimes people get bogged down in all the bad things that are happening that we can forget to mention the positives. And I think it's important to mention those too.
And I always think just that idea of a movement with those like clear demands and focusing on the corruption, and maybe that undergirding can kind of pull everything together, whether it's finding points of agreement with someone like Cenk, and like making the direct action, the mutual aid, and the electoral stuff come together behind that set of demands and that movement. And so I think that's like the big project right now. And we need everyone on board, as long as they're coming in good faith.
Yeah. And I think, I think like all of us, we really gotta like build, we need to build, coalitions with people, because like the right until more recently, but typically the right stays that they stick together. And I feel like on the left, we have a lot of football fumbles where it's just like someone dropped the ball, so they're kicked off the team. Instead of someone dropped the ball, maybe they need to sit on the bench for a little bit. And you see what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of like, this person's canceled. I'm done with this person. And I just feel like we have to find ways to build like coalitions.
And I would submit the way to do that is with that set of demands, with that set of core principles, to say, we don't really give a shit about who likes who or this person or that personality or whatnot. It's about the principles, the demands, and how we all going to work together on that. And if we can like keep a focus on that, then we can keep the ball moving, right?
Yeah, I think that's a really thing. It's really important that you said that, because the reality is like sometimes there's too much focus on personality. And I think it's just, I was just making fun of Ben Shapiro and Tucker, but I mean, that's a little different thing. But all I'm saying is that I feel like sometimes people get their eye off the ball. They stop focusing on the policies and, to your point, the demands, and they just make it all about said person. So
I would set it up this way. We talk about those things all we want and bring them up. Yes, call them out and whatnot, and then always bring it back to that core thing: billionaires versus the rest of us. Top 0.1% is the thing that's crushing all of us. If we can always bring it back to that core, then I think we can have something that's durable and that builds.
And you're not going to find somebody that agrees with you on everything, guys. Like that's another thing I noticed too, was like, we were talking about this on Call-In, right? Where there seems to be this whole push of everything is canceled. Cancel this person, cancel that person. Like, and it's just kind of, it gets to the point where it's like, you're not going to have anybody left but a tiny smidgen of people.
It's how they play us.
Right. So it's like, don't lose sight of the mission. Don't lose sight of the demands. Like, you should always be focused on that. and put all that other stuff to the side. That's just kind of how I see it.
And if you're not seeing the billionaires, then you're not getting it.
Yeah, if you're not seeing the money, which I thought it was good that he brought that all back full circle towards the end of the conversation where he said, so this gets back to the money, because that's what it's all about. It's all connected to. The reason why we have a lot of these problems is because of the big money interests. It's not because we're bad people, right? Like, it's not because of me, because of you, because we have no power, we don't have any monetary power. But if we came together in large numbers,
that's the 99%.
Yep.
There's some power. All right. Well, now that we fixed all that, we should be good.
All righty.
All
right, guys. Have a good night. Keep up the fight.
All right. We're going to let Sabby call it a night here. I'm going to read out some super chats. And, the other thing I think of it is like the thing with Khanna, right? How do we deal with a character like Khanna? And you really have to look at, are they getting really serious about calling out power, about calling out that core problem? We have this small set of ultra wealthy billionaires at the top that are really calling all the shots, that they're all really working for. And just fixing this is just simply not compatible with the duopoly, with the Democratic and Republican parties. Like, those parties are billionaire parties. That's what they're all about. And so that's why when you have a character like a Khanna who comes on, he's on your side and he gets, these things. Well, if he's on our side, he can't be in one of those two billionaire parties. We really have to, start having that kind of a red line. And I think it's like when it's also like when Katie Halper is interviewing him and talking about his stance with Gaza. And I mean, we have these very hardcore facts that literally thousands of children in Gaza, tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds, have been killed with our bombs and dropped on them, have blown them to bits. It's hard to even wrap your head around. And the Republican Party is neck deep in that. The Democratic Party is neck deep in that. It started under Biden. It wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have carried over to the Trump administration if Biden had put a stop to it. And so anyone with any moral character and sensibility and who understands what's going on, which Roe does, would be appalled by it and would run screaming from those parties. The independent candidates that we like. I mean, that's how they respond to these things. So with a character like Roe Khanna, it really just comes down to that. And that's part of why we come back to it a lot on the show. It's like, why are you still, in a genocidal billionaire party? When you connect the dots, right? The other thing we really need to ask is, like, why are these things happening? And, to bring it back to the two sets of interests. There are the two sets of interests out there. There's the billionaire interest, and there's the interests of the 99%. And I would say the real problem with the core problem with anybody who's a member of those two parties is they're not working in our interest. They should be calling out the leaders of those parties. They should be calling them out as implacably corrupt to the point where they just can't be a mechanism of real change, of real progress for the 99%. One of our core demands really is that they leave those parties and form something new if they're serious about it. So I just wanted to put that out there. Let me check my notes if I had noted anything else interesting. So you always have to connect it to the money and the billionaires, and if you don't do that, then you're going to be confused, and you're going to be vulnerable to their games, to their ways that they like to do the old divide and conquer on us. So for more on that, keep watching here. Check out 11 Demands, because that gets into all these things, especially the 11 Demands Substack has a lot of articles that delve into these things and lay them out. So I encourage everyone, subscribe to the Sabby Substack, subscribe to the 11 Demand Substack, and we'll keep you informed of what's happening. All right, let's look at some of these super chats that go back a little ways, like from the flock ones. We got Dabu saying that I hope I don't get flocked up when I go outside tonight. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, I mean, the flock cameras are an expression of them versus us. The power structure, you could call it the billionaires, you could call it the corporate oligarchy, that they love these flock cameras because they don't affect them, right? A billionaire doesn't care what cameras are on him, but for the average people, for the 99%, for the working people, for the peasants, they want to keep an eye on us, and they want to, if someone starts making too much trouble, they want to be able to get them out of there. And of course, the cops love them because they make their jobs easier, and they can spy on their girlfriends. And the cops are doing that kind of stuff, looking up things for personal reasons. I can tell you from people I know, a personal knowledge of it, that cops do that constantly. They use those systems for personal reasons, and you have to have a really tightly regulated and watched over and audited system to not have that happen. I think we should just be looking in each state to pass a state law that makes these kind of generalized surveillance cameras illegal, to ban them. It's perfectly legitimate for the 99% to decide that we don't like these types of cameras, and we're not going to have them in our state. So could happen with ballot measures. All right. Shout out to Marlon Wells for being a member for 18 months. And he used his special member chat to say, Israel just letting Trump know he'd better stick to the Greater Israel script. At this point, Trump doesn't believe what Trump says anymore. Yeah, it was a good question. Did they get him good on that one and just had him jumping? Kind of looked like it. Was he looking for some quality time with the new Blondie bot there, version 2, or what was going on there? Like with what we were saying earlier, we always want to connect it to the power structure, to the billionaires. Why does Israel have this power, right? I think we should be asking these core questions, right? Why can Israel make the president of the United States basically jump when they say boo? Israel doesn't have power just in and of itself. It's not just an inherent attribute of Israel as a nation. Israel has that power because Israel is a pet project of a key set of billionaires. That goes back. There have been different ones over the years. You do see Rothschild. You can see that paperwork of that kind of power, Rothschild power. And it's simple money power. Like it's not even it's not like a huge conspiracy thing. I mean, they just have a lot of money and they have a lot of power, and a certain number of them decided that Israel project was something they wanted to have happen, and it happened. More recently with Trump, I mean, they don't even make a secret of it. He's out there cheering, praising Miriam Adelson, giving her a medal, and he's calling her out at events and talking about how much money she's given him and given the Republican Party and given the movement. If you want to know why Israel has so much power and so much sway, just look at Miriam Adelson and Sheldon Adelson before her. It's a pretty direct connection. I would submit that if you're not making those connections and understanding those connections, then you're going to be confused about how that power really operates. And you can't fix something until you really understand how it operates and how the root causes are. That's why we're always trying to make those connections. So if the problem is the billionaires and their corrupt power, then you look at, okay, then what's the demand, right? MCDS, money, corruption, demand, solutions. The demand is fix the corruption. Don't have them have all that power. So the solutions, you have solutions in the direct ways in terms of cleaning up the campaign financing, public financing of elections, have the move to amend constitutional amendment to fix Citizens United and the core reasons why the court can do those things. And And the other solutions get into the economic systems and, you know, taxing the billionaires, taxing their wealth, and fixing those economic issues. The stuff is fixable, but first we have to understand it, and then we have to get organized together around fixing it. Thanks for the super chat, Libertarian Social Democrat, who says, Nancy Mace hatefulness is out of control. I hear you. And, you know, that's part of the game too, is they have certain members of Congress and certain people, you know, in the system who are just outrageous, who push the boundaries and starts fights. You know, they love the fighting. You know, they love it as long as we're fighting. Now the billionaires also fight. Billionaires have been fighting. You know, doing fighting. That's a lot of what I think we see in politics and in a lot of things in the economic system and a lot of things. We see the downstream effects of billionaire infighting because they fight with each other. They try to pull profit away from each other. Part of it, when things seem hopeless, like what can the 99% do against them? I think it's important to remember that they're not a monolith. They have shared interests in terms of their billionaires existing and having the economic system that suits them and having a corrupt Congress work for them. But they also all want a bigger piece of the pie, and it's possible to use that infighting, use the billionaire interests against them. You have the war billionaires, you have Silicon Valley, you have the energy engineers. They don't all want the same things. You have health, big pharma, billionaires. I say engineers, well, engineers, billionaires. Anyways, they will stab each other in the back without even thinking about it. So I would just say they do have that weakness. If it seems like there's no way we could win against them. And thanks for this one, super chat from our Mountain Star Studios, who says, Wizard of Oz, who is they? They are the WEF, unelected, self-designated elites. See the Pyramid of Power by Derek Bros, discussing GIBBEM. Anyways, and I guess I would say I think that does sort of connect onto what I've been saying too in the pyramid that I was showing earlier. I would say in terms of being self-selected, the billionaires, you know, have that power because they have acquired that wealth, right? It's really down to the money and the wealth. And we need to recognize that and then work on, you know, how do we counteract that? All right. I think we've got one more here. One more super sticker from a Mountain Star Studio. Thanks for that. Appreciate that one. All right. I think that's going to about do us for tonight's show. I think I've done my due diligence here, reading out the super chats. You can catch the Sabby show next. If it's Thursday, then the next show will be Sunday. The usual Sabby schedule is Tuesday at 7 p.m., Thursday at 8 p.m., which we had tonight Eastern time, and then Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern time. So that'll be the next live show here, where you can see what Sabrina has in store for you next. Until then, keep up with the Substacks, keep up with 11 Demands. Make sure you subscribe to all the good places. And thanks everyone for watching the show and listening to me prattle on for a few minutes. And I'll end it with the old have a good night. Keep up the fight. Have a good night. And we'll see you next time. Peace out, everyone. Catch ya.